Hello and welcome to Class 9 History online video lectures. Dear children, today we will start a new chapter, and this chapter is the final chapter of contemporary history. As you all know, in contemporary history we have 3 chapters starting from Renaissance, the second being Reformation, and the third one is Industrial Revolution. Let me first prepare you for the reduced syllabus given to us by the Council, and as per the reduced syllabus, from the Industrial Revolution chapter, the topics that you are expected to study will be first, the definition of Industrial Revolution, and second is the differences between capitalism and socialism. So, for children who are using your textbook, please be very careful that there are only 2 topics which are there for your examinations, and the rest which are there in your books will be irrelevant. So let us start with this last chapter called Industrial Revolution. First, let us look at the 2 words, industrial and revolution. What is the image that you get in mind when you think or hear the word industrial? Don't you think about industries, factories, plenty of people working, machines, alright, and also a lot of production, a lot of engineering involved, ideas involved, inventions involved. So therefore, you have got it right. Whenever we think of the word industrial, of course, we will be dealing with production, distribution, consumption. But here, we also need to understand the second word, which is revolution. What is revolution? You must have come across words like Green Revolution, 1857 Revolution, French Revolution. Revolution, as we all know, is some kind of change, alright, which is always done for the better, some good changes which are coming, and changes are always part and parcel of the society. Therefore, one of the biggest social change that human civilization ever noticed, right, in the 18th century was the Industrial Revolution. That the changes which came in the industries. Now, we all know, we have done in this chapter Renaissance, it was again rebirth, reawakening of art, culture, literature, inventions were there, discoveries were made, that in Europe people were no longer now backward, or no longer their thoughts were controlled by religion. But now they started looking for scientific ideas. They started looking for facts, figures, rather than superstitions and taboos. This embracing of new ideas led to a lot of explorations. We have done that while dealing with the factor of Renaissance. One is the discoveries of new trade routes. So they discovered new lands and new culture. Then a lot of sea voyages were also taken. People now started traveling from one place to the other. We have seen the contribution of Copernicus, alright, to science. So therefore, because of all this, when we are dealing with Industrial Revolution, we are talking about that age. We are talking about that era where machines now started controlling man, okay? And before this, we had just agricultural societies, agrarian societies. People worked from home, got up in the morning, the whole family went to the fields. There was this tradition of community farming, everybody working together. So it was more or less like home-based jobs. But Industrial Revolution now changed the workplace. The workplace was different from your homes. You had to get up in the morning, get dressed and go to work. Isn't this what we see today also? Everybody getting up in the morning, there's a certain time, rushing to the bus stop, or probably taking your car to office. So this is called Industrial Revolution. Now let me just read out what is the definition of Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution began in the 18th century, and what will be the definition? When agricultural societies became more urban, industrialized and urban, transcontinental railroad, cotton gin, electricity, inventions changed permanently the lives of human beings. This change, this revolution is known as the Industrial Revolution. So in the Industrial Revolution, we see the work of machines. Now machines were invented, and these machines could perform the work of so many men. Electricity was used, all right? Invention of steam engines and all came during this time, and lot of discoveries were also made, and therefore the lives of man changed. How can the lives of man change? Because of machines. Look into your own kitchen. How many machines do you have? You might have the mixer grinder, you might have the oven, you might have the rice cooker, you have the fridge. Aren't these machines? And aren't these machines making your life easier, simpler, and also the work is done faster? Once upon a time, man had simple machines. The mortar and pestle is a simple machine. The stone grinder is a simple machine. But now man wanted to work faster, and because of this, when machines came, the work of so many hundred men could be done by a simple machine. Therefore, this change, and later this had a great effect on human lives, because today we are always timed, we are controlled by machines, and this phase or this social change is called Industrial Revolution. Now let us look at the two concepts of socialism and communism. In your textbooks, you will find a table where the differences between communism and socialism are given. So let's look at the differences. We will do it point-wise, all right? First one, let's start with capitalism. Now, capitalism is an economic system where the means of production are owned by private individuals or entities. Now, the word capitalism, capitalist country. What do you mean by capitalism? In capitalism, the work or the means of production is owned by a private individual. Haven't you seen companies where it's written private limited? It belongs to one individual. It belongs to one entity. But the opposite of that is socialism, where it says socialism is an economic system based on public ownership of the means of production. Which means, in simple words, if the means of production is controlled by a group or a state, then that means of production or that state is known as a socialist state. For example, we have two providers, right? When we look at transport also, you have private transport and you have public transport. In public transport, you have seen buses, trains, aircrafts, which are controlled by the government. And private, same thing. Again, you might find it much cleaner, much safer, all right? You have private buses, you have private cars, you might have private jets, you might have private, helicopters. So this is the difference between private and public. Private will come under capitalism, whereas public or state owned will come under socialism. The next difference is, coming to capitalism, means of production are owned by private individual and entities, whereas means of production are owned by the government. Next, prices are set by supply and demand. In capitalism, the prices. What is the price you pay for potato? What price will you pay for a television? What price are you going to pay for probably a liter of milk will be determined by the supply and demand forces. But in case of the public sector or socialist states, here the prices will be set up by the government. Like for example, if you want to travel by train, the price is set up by the government. If you want to travel by a public bus, probably the bus fare will be much cheaper compared to that of a private bus. Next, income is set by free market forces, whereas in socialism, income is equally distributed among everyone. The income that you get, imagine if you have a shop and you are earning, right, or you're selling something, then in your case, your profit will be taken by only that individual, only by you. But in case of the public sectors, the profit will be divided amongst the others. Then coming to the other one, capitalism will always encourage, because at the end of the day, private enterprises would also always want to maximize profit. They always want to earn more and more. So they would spend most of their money in, they said, innovation and efficiency. Look at private banks. Look at efficiency. You don't have to wait in a queue. It's very neat and clean. People are ready to give you service, but compare that to a government bank. All right. Then again, in case of socialism, less incentive for innovation and efficiency. If you walk into a public bank, there are no changes. In fact, if you walk after 20 years also, there will be no changes at all, because public sectors do not encourage innovation and efficiency. Then let us look at the countries. Let us look at the examples of countries which are capitalist countries. We have examples like United States, Japan, Germany and Hong Kong. And then in case of socialism, we have North Korea, Mexico, Sudan, Venezuela. These are the socialist countries. So with this, we come to an end of the Industrial Revolution chapter, as we had only 2 topics to cover. Thank you very much for watching.